As the Death Star approached the rebel base on Yavin 4, Grand Moff Tarkin stood inside his war room, watching the imminent fall of the rebellion. Outside of the station, a rebel strike team was deployed to destroy the battle station following the finding of a weakness by the rebels. Imperial fighters are used to counter the rebels, whose small ships evaded the fire of the turbo lasers. The rebel fighters remain strong despite losses and make an assault on the trench of the Death Star. Tarkin receives a warning from an Imperial general, asking if he wanted his ship repaired, but Tarkin is confident, not wishing to evacuate in their moment of triumph, and the General Bast was overestimating the chances of the rebels. Tarkin's overconfidence will be his downfall, as a young rebel named Luke Skywalker used his proton torpedoes and destroyed the main reactor of the Death Star, killing everyone on board including Tarkin. But what if Tarkin had evacuated in his moment of triumph? How would the survival of Tarkin impact the Empire? Would the rebels still end up being victorious? As you're about to discover, the escape of Tarkin will lead to surprising consequences. Standing in the overbridge, Tarkin watched as the Death Star drew closer to the rebel base on Yavin 4. His thoughts on a success for the Empire are interrupted by the footsteps of Chief Bast, who asked if he wanted to prepare his ship. Tarkin wanted to dismiss the queries of the general, as it was impossible for someone to touch this technological terror, but he glanced to the side and the TIE fighters were being picked off by the rebel X-Wings. Reluctantly, Tarkin is forced to abandon his position and heads to his ship, where he would be safe from the explosion of the main reactor. From afar, Tarkin watched in annoyance as the Death Star explodes, and he had lost the chance to extinguish the rebellion. Going back to Vader's flagship, the Devastator, Tarkin received a transmission from the Sith apprentice himself, and Vader's damaged TIE Advance soon docked in the hangar. The Sith angrily tore open the hatch above him, and staggering to his feet, goes straight for the bridge. Looking at Tarkin, he lifted him into the air with the Force, choking the life out of him, berating his overconfidence. Just as Tarkin was about to meet his end, the holoprojector in front of them shimmered into life, as Emperor Palpatine's form appeared. The Dark Lord of the Sith is seething with rage, equally angry at Tarkin for overlooking the flaw in the Death Star, and at Vader for allowing the Death Star's plans to fall into rebel hands. Tarkin gets up from the floor and tells the Emperor that they would succeed with the next Death Star, which he needed to do were his life to remain intact. Vader gathers the surviving members of the Imperial High Command and decide to build the Death Star immediately, refusing to allow the rebellion to rest. For Vader, he had a more personal goal and goes to talk to his master again. Sidious and Vader discuss their feelings around the rebel pilot who had destroyed the Death Star. Sidious tells Vader to abandon the ongoing discussions with Jabba the Hutt and go immediately for Luke Skywalker, as he could not allow him to get too powerful. Vader waited patiently for his ship to be repaired, whilst he searched out for Luke. But he did not have to wait long, as in his meditation chamber, he received a message from one of his officers that a group of Imperials had been slain by Luke at the Temple of Edith. Vader leapt into his newly repaired ship and pursued Luke, eventually managing to chase him down in the Corellian industrial cluster. Vader turned the corner of the weapons factory to see Luke charging at him, wielding Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, and following the words of the Emperor, Vader took him captive after a brief duel. Waking up in Vader's fortress, Luke could only see darkness before the footsteps of Vader heightened his senses. Vader promised to train Luke, and that with their combined power they could defeat the might of the Emperor, but Luke would not give in to the dark side. For Vader, his son was proving to be more resilient than he thought. Back in one of the ships of the Rebel Alliance, Leia, Han Solo, R2-D2 and Chewbacca were despondent at the loss of Luke, who had proven to be a key part of the Rebel Alliance. Suddenly, Leia felt something probing in her mind, and it was the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi. The voice of the Jedi Master had told her what had happened to Luke, and that they couldn't save him from the grasp of Vader without training. Obi-Wan guides Leia to the planet of Dagobah, where she met with Master Yoda, and the first phase of her Jedi training would begin. Leia was the only hope for the Jedi. That is it for part 1 of What If Tarkin Evacuated in His Moment of Triumph. If you'd like to see a part 2 soon, please like this video, turn on your notification bell, subscribe to this channel, and my other channel What If Films for more what ifs. And as always, leave a comment on what if you'd all like to see next, and how I can improve my videos. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.